चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणी। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Bhaktyaloka series. In the last two classes, we have been discussing Niyamagraha. It is a very important principle, and we are going quite slow, step by step, to understand what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to say. Initially, first we discussed about what Niyamagraha has a twofold meaning, and the difference between a principle and a rule. How rules are the best way to follow the principle. And then we discuss quite in detail this principle, Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vismartavya Najatachut and Sarva Vidhi Nisheth, do's and don'ts, that the rules. And then we went into the twofold meaning of Niyamagraha and Niyamagraha. Insisting on rules without understanding the principle or the purpose, or neglecting the rules and regulations of Shastra which are meant for spiritual development. And then we saw this example also, of Niyam Agraha. And then failure to accept is very clear, difficult to follow, so it is not important. So we saw that. And then we began with the article on Niyamagraha by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he mentions about Vidhi and Nishedh, and conditions sold from the lowest position can elevate themselves to an exalted position by following Vidhi and Nishedh. Each level there is Vidhi and Nishedh, and by following that particular Vidhi and Nishedh and not being attached to the lower level, one can gradually make advancement. We saw that each level there is one who follows, he advances; does not follow, he degrades. And then we saw from the Harinam Chintamani these different stages of Nishta and Ruchi, how at the stage of Ruchi, one has attraction for the Lord, so he has to follow those rules of Ruchi, and then he has to give up mundane rasa. If he's still attached to it, then he doesn't advance. So we saw that. And then yesterday we were discussing about this very important verse. Sve sve adhikariye nishta saguna parikirtita viparayas tu doshasya ubayor esha nishchaya. So yesterday I hope devotees were very clear about what this verse means. Like we also discussed from Bhagavad Gita 3.3, like somebody who has got adhikar for practicing gyan, then he has to maintain steadiness in practice of gyan. If he doesn't practice the angas of gyan, he is at fault. And being qualified for gyan, if he takes up to karma, then also is at fault. Arjuna, basically in the Gita discussion in the flow, is qualified for karma. And being qualified for karma, he should do karma. If he doesn't do, then it is at fault. He's at fault. And if he's not qualified for Gyan, but he takes up Gyan, then also he's at fault. So yesterday we had a long discussion on this. And then there are conditional and constitutional do's and don'ts. So the conditional is, the constitutional do's and don'ts are prescription is prema, prohibition is envy. And based on the constitutional, there is conditional do's and don'ts. There is karma, jnana, and bhakti. For karma, it is, karmadikar. He has to follow the varnashram. For jnana, detachment and all, and not be attached to fruit effects. For bhakti, following the angas of bhakti. We saw that yesterday. And then we discussed, until he attains the taste for devotion service, he has to tavat karmani kurvita na nirvidyate yavata mat katha shravanado shraddha yavan na jayate. So shraddha here means surrender, sarva dharman parityajya. It means purna shraddha. When the development of faith has happened and one has matured in his understanding of Shastrartha Vishwas. Shraddha means Shastrartha Vishwas. And deep knowledge of the Shastras, and with that knowledge and maturity, he surrenders. Then that is beginning of Shuddha Bhakti. So that's what yesterday we discussed this verse also. And then the Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks of how one gradually elevates from the 14 planet systems of Karma Kanda, then the Viraj, Brahmaloka of the Jnana Kanda, then Vaikuntha and Golok Vrindavan. So I think, yeah. So then, here is where we discuss Shraddha is the only rule for people established on the level of Bhakti. And Anarthas are destroyed by bhajan under the shelter of sadhu and guru. And then that Shraddha, which is complete surrender, transforms into Nishtha. Because sadhu sangha has happened, bhajan kriya is happening, anarthas have been destroyed. So that becomes Naishtiki Bhakti, firm faith, Nishtha. As the anarthas is destroyed, one goes from Nishtha to Ruchi to Bhava and to Asakti and then Bhav. And then at Bhava, all the components or different components of Bhava combine to give rise to Rasa. So yesterday we saw this. All these different components give rise to Halva Rasa. So similarly, Vibhava, Anubhav, Sthahi Bhav, Sanchari Bhav, and Satviki Bhav give rise to Rasa. So this is where we completed our discussion yesterday. So now we'll continue. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-26, it is said, Yatha yatatma parimrijyate so mat punya gata shravanabhidhane तथा तथा पश्यन्ति वस्तु सूक्ष्मं चक्षुर यथा इवाञ्जन संप्रयुक्तम्. When a diseased eye is treated with medicinal ointment, it gradually recovers its power to see. Chakshur yata eva anjana samprayuktam. Similarly, tata, As a conscious living entity cleanses himself of the material contamination, yata atma parimrujyate aso, by hearing and chanting the pious narrations of my glories, mat punya gata shravana abhidhane, he regains his ability to see tata tata pashanti, me, the absolute truth, vastu, in my subtle spiritual forms. Spokesman. So just like children are put kajal, it's an ointment by which the vision improves. Similarly, by taking up to the chanting and hearing, Chaito Darpan Marjanam happens. And the heart gets cleansed, the chitta gets cleansed, and then from now here the heart means the soul. Now from the soul's pure vision through the eyes, external eyes, we see things and we see through the soul's eyes. So that depends on the purification. So that is what here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is, saying how Anartha from that, Nishta happens, Nishta to Ruchi, Asakti. So there is gradual destruction of, with the medicine of the holy name, there is, revival of our spiritual vision. Actually, when Krishna tells in the Gita, Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmani Gavihastini Suni Chaiva Sapakecha Pandita Samadarshana. Darshana means to actually see also, and Darshana also means philosophical insight. So, when one attains self realization, the soul's natural vision is awakened. It's called as Pragya Chakshu. Pragya Chakshu. It's not the Chakshu of the eyes uh, with the mixture of the three modes. We see through these eyes, but through the frame of the mind. And the mind has unlimited samskaras. And we see based on the modes. So, but when the heart is cleansed, then the soul's natural vision is awakened. So that's how gradually it happens from these different stages of Nishta to Ruchi to Asakti and Bhava and Prema. That's why he quotes. Srila Rupa Goswami clarifies the sequence in his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu as follows. Now, please very carefully hear attentively here that uh, what is being spoken. आदौ श्रद्धा ततः साधु संगतः भजन क्रिया ततो नर्तावृत् अनर्थानिवृत्ति स्यात् ततो निष्ठा रुचिस्ततः तथासक्तिस्ततो भावस्ततः प्रेमा विद्यांचति साधकानाम् अयं प्रेम्णः प्रादुर्भाव भवेत् क्रमः. So this is a gradual way the sadhakas attain these, different stages. This is the general thing which happens. There can be sometimes the Lord can directly bestow bhava and prema, but this is a general the sadhakas have to go through. First, there is association with devotees by which one gets faith. Ado Shraddha. Now, please carefully, that's why put this in blue. You associate with devotees and there is a development of faith happening. There is a development of faith happening. And when this is all happening in the Ado stage, and your development of faith reaches to its maturity, that means Purna Shraddha or Sharanagati, then one associates with devotees, Tata Sadhu Sangha. So here the devotees, they're associating with devotees. So this Sadhu Sangha is spoken about those pure Uttamadhikaris because once you have developed that level of pure faith, pure Shraddha, then you are qualified to associate with very exalted devotees by which they will teach you how to practice bhajan by which all the anarthas will be reduced. To learn the scriptures and then practice bhakti, tata bhajan kriya. The anarthas are then destroyed. Tato anartha nivritya syat. Steady bhakti without confusion follows. Tato nishtha. Desire for the Lord, ruchi, appears. This is followed by spontaneous desire for the Lord, asakti. This becomes bhava, tato bhava, and then prema, tata premna, abhudhyanchati. This is the progression. I am karma bhavet for manifestation, for manifesting prema. Prema pradurbhava for those performing sadhana bhakti, sadhaka now. So this is how Rupa Goswami has translated this verse and Jiva Goswami has translated. So I'm presenting that. So Shraddha becomes the entry door to practice pure devotional service. Shraddha is not a stage. Please hear this very carefully. Shraddha is not a stage. It is the entry door for practicing pure devotional service. Just like the entry door for practicing jnana sadhana is one has to be self-realized. He has to be a sthita pragya. By practicing Nishkama Karma Yoga, he has to attain Sthita Pragya. He has to become self-realized. So once he's self-realized, and then he is allowed to take sannyas and take the Jnana Sadhana. And by the practice of Jnana Sadhana, he can attain Sadhya, that is Jivan Mukta stage, and then ultimately merge in the Brahman. So similarly, in the path of bhakti, initially there is association of devotees by which we slowly develop our faith. And when our development of faith matures and we come to the point of Sarva Dharman Parityajya, then we associate with sadhus who will teach us Shuddha Bhakti, how to do bhajan, Shuddha Sadhana Bhakti. And then anarthas will be destroyed, we'll attain Nishna, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prem. So I hope it is clear. Now, by execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material contamination, attains steadiness in self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This taste leads one further forward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of Godhead. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining this verse itself. Real love of God is prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. In the process of sadhana bhakti, there are four stages: Shraddha, Nishtha, Ruchi, and Asakti. Now, I want to know from devotees, is there something wrong here mentioned? In the process of sadhana bhakti, there are four stages: Shraddha, Nishtha, Ruchi, and Asakti. Something is missing. Please think about it and raise your hands. Anyone? Think about it. Something is wrong, no? Something is missing. Yes, Nandini Mataji.
Krishna Prabhuji Dandat Salam. Prabhuji, Anartha Nivritti, like it's a one of the main component is like the
Yeah, Anat Nivritti. Any other stage is missing?
Shraddha, Bhajan Kriya, Sadhu Sang.
Bhajan Kriya, Sadhu Sangh. So instead of seven, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying four. This is something to be noted. So please hear carefully now. Why Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying only four stages: Shraddha, Nishtha, Ruchi, and Asakti. After passing these four stages, one comes to the level of Bhava, which is the doorstep to Prema. So I put here Uttama Bhakti, there is Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. So he says Shraddha, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti. And then there is Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. So basically, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to say, let us see. According to the degree of faith, each level has different rules. As one leaves behind one level and progresses next, he should honor the rules of the later and leaves aside those of the former. So here, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to say, that initial faith what we have by associating with devotees where we are hearing devotional scriptures, There is a development of faith happening. But when that faith matures and your heart is purified, you're self-realized, then you associate with Shuddh, pure devotees and perform your bhajan very quickly. Anarthas are destroyed. So it's like straight you're jumping from Shraddha to Nishtha when you come to the stage. You're directly jumping from Shraddha to Nishtha and then Ruchi and Asakti. So one day I was traveling with the sannyasi and another devotee who was driving. So he was asking, Maharaj, this another devotee, he came into Krishna consciousness, you know, just, very recently, and the way he is advancing, it's like, how do we understand this, Then Maharaj said, sometimes, some people take a bicycle to drive, sometimes some take a car to drive, and sometimes some take a jet flight straight, they launch their rocket, sorry. So the point is that somebody who has developed that Shraddha from the previous life by associating with sadhus, heard the Bhakti scriptures and developed, has a pure heart, then very quickly his bhajan in the association of sadhus quickly reaches him to the stage of Nishtha. So this is what it means. One who does not give up the rules of the previous level are bound by those rules like chains that do not allow him to proceed to the next level. This we have already discussed, if you remember, na? Like we discussed in the Bhagavad Gita verse also. If you have Nishtha and Karma, then you are qualified for Karma Yoga. And if you have Nishtha in Jnana, you've attained that faith by practicing Karma Yoga and you have become Sthita Pragya, then you're qualified for Jnana Yoga. But being at the stage of, Jnana Yoga, you're still attached to karma, then you have to step down. You have to step down. So that's the point again Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making here. In the process of devotional service, whatever rules are prescribed for each other are all subordinate to one principal rule. Okay, which is that principal rule which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to quote in the process of devotional service? Yes, Nandini Mataji.
Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna.
That general rule is given in the Padma Puran. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, vismartavyo na jatuchit, sarve vidhi nisedyasyo, etayoreva kinkara. Remembering Krishna is the eternal duty. All other prescriptions mentioned in the Shastra have arisen from this main prescription, main principle. Forgetting Krishna is never allowed. All other prohibitions mentioned in the Shastra have arisen from this main prohibition. Keeping this main prescription in mind while advancing, the practitioner should give up his attachment for the prescriptions of the previous level and accept the prescriptions of the next level. So this is, I think, very clear. As a child grows, his dosage of intake of the food increases, you know, and that's natural to his development of the body. So similarly, as with the development of his sadhana, you should, more remember Krishna and follow the rules at that level. Otherwise, he'll be guilty of Niyamagraha and weak in reaching the next level. So first you'll be guilty of Niyamagraha and you'll be weak when you reach the next level. The practitioner of devotional service must always remember this point. In the conclusion of Hari Bhakti Vilas, a special instruction is given in this regard. Okay, let's see what is this special instruction. Kirtanyetani tu prayo grihinam daninam satam likantani na tu tekta parigraha mahatmanam. Whatever activities are written in Hari Bhakti Vilas, etani kirtyani tu are mostly meant for householders and rich devotees. Praya grihinam daninam satam. There are no rules written, na tu likhitani for the renunciate. Tektva. Tekta means they are renunciates. Parigraha Mahatmana. Also in the conclusion of Hari Bhakti Vilas, it is stated, Avashyam tani sarvani tesham tad rikta siddhaye prag apekshyani bhaktir iha sadacharek sadhana. Although the rules for renunciates are avoided in this book, still renunciates should follow those rules in order to perfect their position. So that's what, you know, Sanatana Goswami is saying in Narita. The behavior exhibited by the renunciate sadhus is proper behavior in this connection. That alone is to be followed. The first symptom of one who has attained Shraddha is surrender to the feet of Lord Krishna. So here again, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making this definition of Shraddha. Shraddha means Sarvadharman Pariteja. So in the Bhagavad Gita, please remember what is happening in the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna surrenders in which verse of the Bhagavad Gita? Anyone knows? Which verse of the Bhagavad Gita? No, it's 2.7. कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभाव पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेत यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं भूरि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्. Prapannam. Prabhupada says what? Surrendered. So it doesn't mean that Arjuna is fully surrendered. Surrender means I am ready to, hear from you. And I want to know how this fighting is beneficial for me. So from here, the instructions begin, and ultimately they end in the Bhagavad Gita in 18th chapter, verse 66. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papyabhyo mokshishyami masucha. So right from 2.7 to 18.66, there is a development of that surrender happening. And that knowledge is the development of that faith. And when you come to this point, then devotion begins, bhakti begins. So this is the point being made. That surrenders of two types, for the householders and for the renunciates. Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas mentions only those rules that are meant for householders. It is meant for householders. That is why observance such as Shiva Chaturdashi are given therein. So that's why we should not read Hari Bhakti Vilas, because we'll get bewildered. We have to hear only what the acharyas have spoken about it and take only that. So Hari Bhakti Vilas Shiva Chaturdashi is given therein. I don't know why it is given. It is given for householders basically. The surrendered renunciate should follow whichever observances are appropriate for renunciates. Both the householder and the renunciate become unalloyed, surrendered souls while advancing on the path of sadhana. Then their rules are only slightly different. At that stage, they attain ultimate surrender due to advancement in sadhana. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11:18:28, the Hari Bhakti Vilas 20th Vilas, and the Srimad Bhagavatam 11:20:36. What it is said, let us see 11:18:28. ज्ञाननिष्ठो विरक्तो वा मद्भक्तो वानपेक्षश स लिंगानाशमां त्यक्त्वा चरेद अविधि गोचर. A transcendentalist, learned transcendentalist dedicated to the cultivation of knowledge. Jnana Nishta. He is Jnana Nishta. Please remember, Nishta again is faith. And thus detached from external objects, Viraktava, or my devotee, Mad Bhaktava, who is detached even from the desire for liberation. Anapeksha. So you see, the devotee has to become detached from sense gratification, bhukti, and even mukti. Then he is practicing pure devotion. Both neglect those duties based on external rules or paraphernalia. Sir Lingan Ashramam Syaktva. Thus, their conduct is beyond the range of rules and regulations. Avidhi gochara. They are not vidhi gochara, they are avidhi gochara. Both the Jnananishta and Madhbhakta. And Madhbhakta here is a pure devotee because he is free from even the desire for liberation. Okay, Hari Bhakti Vilas. Ekantinam gatanto Shri Krishna charabjaya Bhakti swata pravratteta Tadvigna kim vritadibhi. When one becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, Ekantinam Kata Nam Tu. So he is a pure devotee, please remember. Then devotion, Sri Krishna Charanabjaha Bhakti is spontaneously established in the heart. Swata Pravartatete. What then is the need to observe rituals? Kim Vratadivi, that simply obstructs one devotional service. Tadvigna. So this is very similar to this verse of the Uddhava Gita. And then न मयि एकान्तभक्तानां गुणदोषद् भावागुण साधूनां समचित्तानां बुद्धे परम उपेयुषाम्. Material piety and sin which arise from good and evil of this world, guna dosha udbhava guna, cannot exist with my unallowed devotee. Na mayi ekanta bhaktanam. Here it is again, ekanta bhakta is a pure devotee who, being free from material hankering, sadhunam, maintain steady spiritual consciousness in all circumstances. Samachittanam. Indeed, such devotees have achieved me, the Supreme Lord. Upeshu Sam, who is beyond anything that can be conceived by material entages. Buddhe Param. So, three verses are quoted which are substantiating this point that, when they ultimately study and surrender, their rules are different, but they might not follow the rules. That's what it is mentioned. In the Haribalas Bhakti Vilas, it is stated, Evam ekantinam praya kirtanam smaranam prabhu kurvatam paramapreetya krityam anyan narochate vihiteshu eva nityeshu pravartante swayam hi te इत्यादि एकांतिनां भाति महात्म्याम likitam hi tat. The devotees whose minds are fixed on chanting and remembering Krishna's glories in pure love have no taste for activities prescribed for lower stages. Although they are not attached or bound to follow the prescribed rules of the scriptures, they sometimes follow on their own accord. So, this is the point now, that although these devotees who are pure devotees, they are not bound by any rules, avidhi gochara, but they sometimes follow just to set an example. This is nicely explained in the 8th verse of Updesh Amrit. Okay. तन्नामरूपचरितादिषु कीर्तनानुस्मर्त्यो क्रमेण रसन मनसि नियोज्य तिष्ठन् व्रजे तत् अनुरागी जनानुगामी kalam nayet akilam it upadeshasaram. So, in the Updeshamrit also it is mentioned this verse. These are glories of pure devotees. That is, their glories are not diminished by neglecting others' prescribed duties. The purport is that exalted devotees follow whatever rules of the lower stages they like. They are they can follow whatever lower stages. It doesn't mean that they are on that stage. They are transcendental, but they whatever they like, they can follow. That's why it is very difficult to understand Vaishnava Kriya Mudra Vigya na bujaya, they say. The Jnanis follow the Varnashram Dharma of the Karmis by their own will, not by rule or obligation. So the Jnanis, although if he is really Jnana Nishta, he is situated and is not in his heart, there is no inclination to do karma. If there is inclination, then he is obliged to follow the rules of karma. But he might follow the rules of the karmis out of his own will. not by rule or obligation. So this point has been established also in the Gita. I'm just showing you this verse to explain. It is, I think, 3 point. Sakta karmanya vidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidam tata saktas chikurshur loka sangraham. So the vidwan who are jnana nishta and they are asakta, they are detached, but they also sometimes do karma with detachment just to show an example to others. Whereas the karmis are sakta, they are attached, and they are that's why called earth with vamsa. And being attached, they are bound to act. But the vidwan, they are detached, they are asakta. Hmm? And they show an example because they don't want that, these karmis try to imitate them because it will not work. So that's why sometimes even the Gyanis follow the rules of karma by their own will. Similarly, the devotees out of their sweet will also follow the rules of karmis and Gyanis for some purpose. This means that although they are not obliged to follow the prescriptions and prohibitions, they do so on their own accord. The topmost pure devotees are also not considered overly attached to regulations when they follow the rules of karma, jnana, and ordinary sadhana bhakti. So, very advanced devotees who are deeply steeped in bhajan, they can just sit in their room and chant. But they come to sit with other devotees, they act like Vaidhi Bhaktas so that they set a good example to others, so that others are also inspired to advance. So, just to help others and set a good example, they might follow all the vidhi of sadhana bhakti, but it doesn't mean they are Vaidhi sadhakas. They are very exalted. So, that we should always remember. So, this is the point. Independently, they are engaged in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord Krishna. The practicing devotee who gives up Niyamagraha but spontaneously follows the rules achieves auspicious results. The conclusion is that the practitioner attains a higher level as a result of following the rules prescribed according to his qualification. According to the qualification, please remember this. He should not maintain attachment for the rules of his previous level. Keeping this instruction always in mind, he should always engage in chanting and remembering Lord Krishna, thus continue advancing to higher levels. So that's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur ends this article. Now, one might feel that article is quite deep and quite technical. And why is Bhaktivinoda Thakur going so much in detail and giving a fine understanding of this Niyamagraha? Is because during Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, there were many, many apasampradayas. And they were trying to imitate the higher level without following the rules of the lower level and getting purified. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, even in Bhajan Rahasya, mentions that if one tries to imitate the higher level, because his intelligence is not purified and he has not developed that vision to stay in that level, just by imitation, he'll not make advancement, he'll fall down, he says. He'll fall down from that position. And that is why Bhaktivinoda Thakur very carefully, that's why at every stage one should be careful to understand what stage he is in and what he should do to make further advancement of hearing and chanting so that his Chaito Darpan Marjanam will happen and gradually the spiritual vision will awaken. So that's the point here. So we discussed this quite in detail, and I hope it was understandable to all of you. But any questions you have, any questions, any clarifications up till now, what we have discussed? We can understand how deep is every word used by Rupa Goswami in the Updeshamrit. Just on Niyamagraha, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written such an extensive article, and we find it difficult to understand the article. So Niyamagraha is a very, very important thing. As long as Prabhupada in the Updeshamrit also says, as long as one doesn't strictly follow the rules and regulations, one cannot make advancement, he says, in Krishna consciousness. So we have to understand what the rules are, and we have to understand what is our adhikar qualification and how we should stay in that particular level and make further advancement. So if you don't have any questions, then I will stop the discussion here because I don't want to start a new uh, article, which is now Jana Sangha. We'll start it fresh tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll begin that Jana Sangha. So thank you very, very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Shri Bhaktyaloka ki jai. Any other questions? Anything related to Bhaktyaloka you have also, you can ask. Somebody had asked me in the group, what does Bhaktyaloka mean? Now, I really don't have idea what Bhaktyaloka means. I'll have to find from some good Sanskrit devotees. But basically, these were each articles written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Sajjana Toshini, and they were published in the Sajjana Toshini. And the Gaudiya Math compiled all these articles, six each 12, and into a book called as Bhaktyaloka. It was in Bengali, and later on, ISKCON devotees who are very well versed with Sanskrit and Bengali, they have translated it in English, and now it is available in English. Bhaktyaloka, you know, uh, uh, as the book title suggests, there it is mentioned as illuminations on bhakti. Illuminations on bhakti. So whether it is the true meaning illuminations on bhakti, I really have no idea, but that's what it mentions. And we'll have to see. I will speak to some of the senior devotees. Yeah, illuminations on bhakti is what it is mentioned. That's about the title Bhaktyaloka. Any other questions anyone else has? Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.